The US only releases CPI data every month, which is technically inflation. And every month, it seems like inflation is getting worse. The Fed has to respond by raising interest rates again and again, which makes things worse for stocks. What's going on? And will there be a recession? Let's find out. Hello everyone and welcome to Success Wisdom. In this video, we're going to talk about, are we in a recession 2022? If you're new to the channel, do like and subscribe to the channel. Before we start, let's talk about what a recession is and how we know when we're in one. Who decides whether or not we're in a recession? Trey? Most of the time, an economy is said to be in a recession if its gross domestic product or GDP has gone down for 2 consecutive quarters. GDP is a standard way for countries to figure out how much all of the goods and services they produce are worth. So when GDP goes up, it means the economy is growing. But when GDP starts to go down from quarter to quarter, it's a warning sign because it means the economy is starting to shrink. So like I said, technically, we would be in a recession if GDP went down for 2 quarters in a row. The National Bureau of Economic Research, or NBER, on the other hand, has recently changed how they see it. They say that they will only call it a recession if the economy goes down a lot for more than a month. For example, in March 2020, when there were lockdowns, GDP had not gone down for 2 quarters in a row. But the NBER had already called it a recession. The recession was the shortest one ever recorded, which is a fun fact. When was the last big recession? Well, the last one was during the financial crisis in 2008. Most of us in our 20s were still pretty young back then, so we didn't really know what was going on. This means that the next one, which is probably this one, was all new to us. From its high point to its low point, the US GDP fell by 4.3%, which doesn't seem like much at first, but it's the largest drop in GDP since the end of World War II. It was called the Great Recession, and over 16 months, the stock market fell by a whopping 49%. This was mostly caused by subprime mortgages, in which banks gave loans to anyone who wanted to buy a house, regardless of their credit score. Now, they're going through a recession. When did this happen the last time? What's happening right now? Are we in a recession 2022? The NBER hasn't declared a recession yet, but many market analysts and top CEOs like James Morgan and Jeff Bezos think one is coming. This time, it's because global lockdowns over the last 2 years have led to way too much money being put into the market. Back then, we did need a boost to stay alive, but after a while, there was so much money going around that the economy basically got too strong. As they gave people more money and stocks started to rise from 2020 to 2021. Households suddenly had more money. And as soon as restrictions were lifted, people traveled, people bought so much stuff, businesses made so much money, and the economy overheated. Even though we want economic growth, it can't happen too quickly or we'll end up with inflation, which is what we're facing now. So again, inflation went through the roof because the economy was too hot. It's normal when inflation hits 7 to 8% every month. After that, it's way too high. So the central bank starts to raise interest rates to try to bring it down. As I said in the last video, when interest rates go up, both individuals and businesses spend less. Hopefully, this will lead to even less spending, which will let the economy cool down a bit. At the end of the day, what they want is for inflation to go down. But even though interest rates have been raised a few times in the last few months, the US announced on July 24, 2022 that headline inflation hit 8.6% year over year, which is the highest growth we've seen in 40 years. Right away, the Fed raised interest rates by 0.75 percentage points. Again, this is the biggest change in US interest rates since 1994, which shows how desperate the Fed is to try to stop inflation. Before that, many people thought the Fed would raise interest rates by 0.5%. This is why there has been so much blood on the market in the last few weeks. Once we saw inflation data, everyone knew that the Fed had to raise interest rates even more. They hope that quickly raising interest rates will stop inflation sooner rather than later. But many people still think the US needs to go into a recession to stop inflation. So you might notice that I'm talking about the US in particular. We all know that the US is an economic powerhouse, and if they go into a recession, other countries will feel the effects. Companies are actually starting to let people go, and some, like Coinbase, are even taking back job offers made to people before they even start working there. Should we get scared? If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Let's continue to discuss whether are we in a recession 2022? Well, the first thing you should know is that recessions are normal and can't be stopped. Just like stocks and cryptocurrencies go through bull and bear markets. The same thing is true for the economy. Even though it's painful and unpleasant and something none of us want to go through, this will probably happen to us at least 3 times in our lives. And when you think about it, recessions don't even last that long. The Great Recession of 2008 was the longest recession the US has had since World War II, and it only lasted 16 months. I know that 16 months seems like a long time to you guys. We don't want our bags to keep falling, and we don't want companies that are having trouble to fire people or hire fewer people for 16 months. It's been a long time. When you compare these recessions to economic booms, there is no comparison. For example, the last economic expansion we had after the financial crisis lasted 129 months, which is almost 11 years. The shortest economic expansion on record lasted only 12 months, which is almost the same as the longest recession since World War II. Are we in a recession 2022? So for those of you who are panicking because this is your first recession, all I can say is don't worry, because it's my first one too. The economy will get better, and on a personal level, it's always darkest before the dawn. In terms of personal finances, I would say that putting money away for a rainy day is the most important thing that everyone must do. In times like this, the rainy day fund really shines. Yes, some people will say that if you only hold cash, it will be eaten away by inflation. But when push comes to shove, cash is key. We won't pay for food, rent, electricity, and everything else with Amazon's tax or Bitcoin. Only cash is accepted. Even though its value may be going down, we still need it. I hope this doesn't happen. But if, touch wood, we get fired from our jobs, at least these emergency funds will help us get through it. If you want, you can put this money into investments that are very safe. So if you've got this covered, like if you have a 6-month or 1-year rainy day fund, you can continue to invest because in my opinion, these are great opportunities to make our money grow. Again, I don't know when things will stop getting worse, but they've been getting worse recently, and many good stocks are already down more than 50%. Even though the indexes are only down 20 to 30%, almost every stock in the S&P 500 was in the red on Monday, June 13, 2022, which is a very rare situation. This doesn't happen very often because there are usually winners in any market situation, including inflation and recession. Even though the price of oil is high, companies like the oil and gas industry will still do well. But I guess the fear of high inflation rates and the upcoming rise in interest rates cause investors to sell every single stock they own. If you look at the charts of the S&P 500 stocks recently, you can see that they fell off a cliff so fast that we couldn't even see it. I mean, there were 2 gap down days in a row, and then a few days later, there was another gap down day. This is a very bad sign for the stock market, and it happened twice in a row. People always say, buy when there's blood on the streets, even if it's your own, which is a famous quote. But I wouldn't recommend going all in, because as I said, we never know when the bottom is. Instead, start dollar cost averaging and do it every week and every month if you have the money. During this time, I would definitely put more money into investments because this is when millionaires are made. One thing you should know if you feel like you want to sell everything and only buy things back when the economy starts to get better, we're out of the recession, etc. Well, all I can say is that this isn't a very good idea. The reason for this is that the stock market usually hits bottom before the economy does. What will happen is that inflation will still be high, but the stock market will go up instead of down. This will be most obvious in the best stocks, which will be ready to take off as soon as the bull market comes back. This happens because investors are very smart and look ahead. I think that as soon as they see signs that the economy will start to get better in the next 3 to 6 months, they will start putting their money back into stocks. The only reason they're going down right now is that there is so much uncertainty. We don't know if the Fed can stop inflation. And as usual, investors hate uncertainty more than anything else. So it looks like we're heading into a recession, in my opinion. Even though the word recession is just a technical term, economies are really starting to slow down. People are getting fired, job offers are being taken back, and investments are constantly being sold off. At this point, all we have to do is get out alive. Don't try to be too smart with your money, especially when it comes to investments and savings for bad times. If you know how to invest and have the money, keep adding to your emergency fund. We've reached the end of another video, and thank you for watching. I hope we answered the question, are we in a recession 2022? If you like this video, do give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below. Thank you and goodbye.